You bring up one of the most controversial and one of the most difficult questions that people are grappling with right now, because there is a moratorium on drilling in the Gulf. I know that Senator Nelson thinks that's a good idea. Senator Boxer thinks it's a good idea. Senator Shelby, I think, does not believe it's a good idea. But what you have proposed is to keep these people working, to let them continue to drill at these various wells, but I guess you would stop when you get to where the oil is. In other words, you could keep people working now, but not take that final step. How would that work, Congressman?
Well, Bob, technology now allows the industry to know exactly where the oil is. If you pay attention to the BP trying to dig the relief well, it takes about a good 3 to 4 months to dig a well, because they have to dig deep into the ground, around 15,000 feet, and that can take a while. So we can allow them to dig up to the first 13,000 feet, and then ask them to stop, and they have the technology to do that. That will allow the administration the time to do the review that they have to do in the next couple of months, to implement new procedures, new protocols, but allow Louisiana to keep the jobs that we desperately need, to keep the revenues flowing, because the oil has devastated the economy of the Gulf Coast. And now the moratorium is really making matters worse, and we have to find a common sense solution to this problem, and to allow partial drilling is a common sense solution.
Let me ask Senator Boxer, because I know you favor this moratorium. Does that make sense, Senator Boxer, to you, what the Congressman just said?
I'm sure open to his idea. What I want to say here is, if you look at the permit that BP filled out, all you have to do is see what they said before the spill. They said they were thoroughly ready for anything that might happen, although it was terribly remote. None of the oil would reach the beaches or the shores. And if it did, if there was a spill, they said, we have the technology. And they didn't tell the truth. So what I've called for during this pause period is a look at all these permit applications. Maybe there are some that are very clear, that are very safe, that are very doable. So I don't think this broad brush necessarily has to be the only way, but I do believe that each permit must be looked at, or we're going to be back to square one again. And again, the jobs that rely on this, it's unbelievable. In my state, 330,000 jobs directly related to a clean coast. And I know how many there are in Senator Nelson's state, Senator Shelby's state, etc. So I think we have to do this surgically, but it needs really to be done.
Senator Shelby, I know you would like to see this moratorium lifted so they can get back to drilling for these economic reasons, to keep people working. Is that worth the risk, though? I think that's the question that people on the other side of the issue have.
Bob, I understand both sides. I've seen both sides. We get about 30% of our oil from the Gulf now, that is the United States. We get a great percentage of that from the deep wells. I believe that BP made some horrible mistakes. They probably tried to do it on the cheap. We have hundreds, if not thousands, of wells in the Gulf of Mexico, and we're probably going to need more and more. If we don't, the oil drilling will go offshore and maybe not come back for a long time. But we need hands-on regulation in this area. Maybe we've learned some things that we can't take shortcuts. But if we need the energy, at least for a bridge for a while, but at the same time, a lot of it's common sense, and not let the industry run way ahead of the regulators. The regulators have got to be on top of the industry, not the industry on top of the regulators.
All right, well, we've got plenty more to talk about on all of this. We're going to take a little break. We'll come back in 60 seconds.